Good afternoon. I'm Asho Kabbalah. President Trump says the U.S. will run Venezuela until what he calls a transition of power can take place. Mr. Trump made the comment in a news conference after confirming that U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in a surprise military operation overnight. Maduro and his wife now headed to New York to face charges. The latest from ABC News.
This is a special report from ABC News, Attack on Venezuela. I'm Wayne Cabot.
La inmediata liberación del presidente Nicolás Maduro y de su esposa Cilia Flor.
Venezuela's vice president on state TV demanding the immediate release of President Maduro and his wife, saying his capture by U.S. troops was under false pretenses, that the U.S. wants regime change to seize its oil and natural resources. President Trump says those resources were stolen from the U.S. companies years ago.
We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world.
Maduro and his wife are en route to New York, where new Mayor Mamdani says he's been briefed about their pending arrival. He calls the operation a violation of federal and international law. As to who will now fill the power vacuum in Venezuela, President Trump says, for now,
we are going to run the country.
And U.S. oil companies will control the oil. This is ABC News.
WINS News Time, 4:31. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Patty Bendina.
Well, there's a few things to be aware of in Queens. There is a crash on the Jackie Robinson westbound that's sitting just past Queens Boulevard, and it is causing traffic to back up on the Van Wyck and the Grand Central ramps. The Cross Island southbound, that's struggling just south of the Clearview down to the LIE, and the Van Wyck is packed both directions between the Belt Parkway and the Kew Gardens interchange. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. The Brooklyn Bridge, still very heavy out of Manhattan into Brooklyn, so take the Manhattan or the Williamsburg bridges around it. The George Washington Bridge, that looks great as you make your way inbound. Outbound, you're still dealing with some cross Bronx delays that are extending back towards Webster Avenue. Bronx River Parkway southbound, that's still heavy north of East Fordham down towards the Cross Bronx. But we're looking pretty good at the Lincoln and the Holland, just about 10 minutes in and out. The Cross Island northbound, that is a little slow merging onto the Throgs Neck Bridge, but once you're on the Throgs Neck, you're looking good along with the Whitestone Bridge. No problems heading up into the Bronx. Patty Bendina, 1010 WINS on 92.3 FM.
Now the AccuWeather forecast with meteorologist Matt Benz.
And we have plenty of clouds out there for the evening hours, and that could eventually spring a few flurries around, especially later tonight. No concerns on the roads, but there'll be some flurries with a low of 26. Tomorrow, sunshine, some clouds. Chilly breeze at times, high at 34. Monday, any early sun will give way to some clouds, perhaps a bit of snow and flurries toward the evening, especially north of the city with a high 32. And for Tuesday, mostly cloudy, not as cold, high at 40 degrees. Perhaps some rain and drizzle developing late in the day or into Tuesday night, mainly across far North Jersey and Hudson Valley suburbs. And temperatures trending warmer through the middle of the week. Right now it's 30 degrees in Central Park with a relative humidity at 39%. Repeating, the current temperature is 30, falling down to 26 tonight in Midtown. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Matt Benz on New York's weather station, 1010 WINS on 92.3 FM.
I live on McGinnis Boulevard, and I've warned people, hey, when you're coming over, just be careful. You might die. It is really the boulevard of death. Mayor Zohran Mamdani is vowing to complete a project derailed by the Adams administration, a redesign of McGinnis Boulevard in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Once the project has been completed, there will be one travel lane in each direction, one parking protected bike lane in each direction, and one vehicular parking and loading lane in each direction.
The road is one of the city's deadliest. Mayor Adams had pledged to rebuild the boulevard, but that came to a stop when one of his top aides, Ingrid Lewis Martin, was indicted for allegedly accepting bribes to stop the construction. She's pleaded not guilty. Construction's expected to be finished by the end of the year. Preparations are underway in New Orleans for this year's Mardi Gras celebration.
There is joy in Louisiana as people ramp up for carnival season, a weeks-long bash that ends with Mardi Gras on Fat Tuesday. There will be parades, amazing food, and glorious balls, not to mention costumes and people wearing fancy beads. More than 1 million people are heading to New Orleans for the fun beginning in days. There are also celebrations in other states, including Alabama, and also in Brazil and Europe.
Allison Keyes reporting, as usual, security is a major concern. Governor Jeff Landry says the National Guard troops will stay in the city for the festivities. Lightning struck twice for a lotto player in Maryland. The man recently cashed in a winning Powerball ticket worth $50,000 after matching 4 of the 5 white balls in the drawing. 8 years earlier, he won $250,000 from a scratch-off ticket, bought a new car. The lucky player now goes by the name the $50,000 man. Add our contest line to your speed dial, 855-475-1010. And for info on our contest rules, go to 1010wins.com/contests.
The News Watch never stops. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Cloudy, 30 degrees. It's 4:40. Good afternoon. I'm Ashok Kabbalah. Here's what's happening. President Trump announces the U.S. will run Venezuela following the capture of President Nicolas Maduro on drug trafficking charges. Maduro and his wife are being flown to New York to face prosecution. Governor Hochul calls it the president's flagrant abuse of power by acting without congressional approval. A statue of the baby Jesus, stolen from a nativity scene in Suffolk County, has been returned. The wife of Dodgers pitcher Alex Vesia is addressing the death of their newborn baby on social media. Elon Musk's chatbot Grok in trouble for generating disturbing images of minors. The Devils and Utah battling it out in the second period. The Islanders host Toronto at 7. The Knicks host Philly at 7:30. Cloudy tonight with a few flurries, especially late. The low 26. AccuWeather says tomorrow, sun, some clouds, a chilly breeze, and a high at 34 for Sunday. Wins News Time, 4:41. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Patty Bendina.
Well, up in the Bronx, there's a crash now on the Major Deacon southbound that's sitting right at Richmond Plaza that has traffic backed all the way to 230th. And there's a broken down on the Major Deacon southbound right at the Cross Bronx Express that has the left lane knocked out. In Manhattan, the Harlem River Drive southbound that's still hitting the brakes right around 3rd Avenue down to 116th Street. And then in Queens, there's an accident on the Jackie Robinson westbound just past Queens Boulevard. That is traffic backing up on the Van Wyck and the Grand Central ramps, and then eastbound on the Jackie, you're slow from the Woodhaven Boulevard over to Queens Boulevard. Cross Island southbound, that's still struggling just north of Northern Boulevard down towards the LIE and the Van Wyck, packed both directions between the Belt Parkway and the Kew Gardens interchange. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. The Brooklyn Bridge still solid out of Manhattan into Brooklyn. Take the Manhattan or the Williamsburg bridges around it. And the George Washington Bridge, there is a broken down on the upper level outbound. It's sitting mid-span. That has the right lane blocked, and you're still going to deal with some cross Bronx delays that extend back to Webster Avenue. If you're heading out towards the Lincoln or the Holland, good news there, just about 10 to 15 minutes in and outbound. And here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three. The LIE, the Northern State moving well. The Southern State westbound, just a little crowded right around the Meadowbrook. Patty Bendina, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
President Trump says the U.S. will run Venezuela until what he calls a transition of power can take place. Mr. Trump made the comment after confirming that U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in a surprise overnight military operation. Maduro and his wife now aboard a U.S. warship headed to New York to face federal drug trafficking and narco-terrorism charges.
Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens.
Senator Chuck Schumer expressed his skepticism over the operation, saying it's not based on concrete intelligence.
No one can explain to me how this is America first. No one can explain to me how this will have a decent outcome, given what we know about past history and given the presentations that have been made that seem so based on almost surmise and lack of thorough thinking and fact.
Protests and celebrations have both been reported in Venezuela and abroad. This all comes after months of increased U.S. activity in the region. 15,000 U.S. military personnel were already in the Caribbean. The U.S. military has been striking vessels that it claimed were trafficking drugs. Anti-war protests in Times Square today.
Anti-war protesters say this is a capitalist war.
The people who own Chevron and ExxonMobil, they want to own Venezuela's oil.
They say oil's the real reason for the invasion. Drugs, a cover-up.
Not for war and occupation.
Kai says he's fed up.
And it's day 3 into January, and we're already bombing other countries.
But
I think in some aspects, we can talk about Maduro being a dictator. That is absolutely true. However, it is not the U.S.'s priority to intervene in another country's sovereignty.
Amanda Alexander, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in Times Square.
Mayor Mamdani says he called President Trump directly to, quote, register my opposition to this act, saying his stance is based on being opposed to a pursuit of regime change to the violation of federal international law. There's a happy ending to a story you heard yesterday here on 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM. A statue of the baby Jesus stolen from a nativity scene in Suffolk County has been returned, safe and sound. County officials made a public plea for the statue's return. It had been swiped from outside a government building in Hauppauge sometime between Christmas and New Year's Day. It's not known who stole it or why. New York, along with the rest of the country, is dealing with record high flu numbers.
The number of patients hospitalized increasing by more than 65% in a week, with this season shaping up to be one of the most severe in recent years. More than half of the country seeing high or very high levels of flu-like illnesses, including New York, the state grappling with record hospitalizations and the highest number of infections in a single week since they started tracking the flu more than 2 decades ago.
Morgan Norwood reporting more than 72,000 flu cases were reported in New York from December 14th to the 20th. There have also been more than 4,500 flu hospitalizations statewide. The wife of Dodgers pitcher Alex Vesia has shared a heartfelt message on social media after the death of their newborn. On TikTok, Kayla Vesia thanked followers for their support after the couple revealed their daughter's death in October.
Alex and I are, trying to get through it every day. Every day is so different for us right now, and I don't really have the words.
Kayla says the outpouring of love has brought comfort to her and her husband during their grief. New England Patriots star Stephon Diggs spoke out for the first time after assault allegations. The wide receiver told reporters yesterday that it's a very emotional time and he wants to focus on the team. He refused to answer any specific questions, citing the fact that it's still an open case. Diggs is facing multiple assault charges, including strangulation, stemming from an incident with a personal chef who claimed she was assaulted by Diggs over money. An attorney for Diggs denies the allegations, calling them unsubstantiated and uncorroborated. Diggs is scheduled to be arraigned on the 23rd, 2 days before the AFC Championship game. Elon Musk's chatbot Grok has been churning out some disturbing images. Some users have been using the AI platform to create digitally altered photos of minors wearing minimal clothing, in some cases stripping them of clothes they were wearing in the original photos. The company which runs the bots, XAI, says it is urgently fixing holes in the system. A parachute jump gone wrong. We'll tell you about that, but first, Wins News Time 4:51. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Patty Bendina.
Thanks to Shokwa in the Bronx. An earlier crash on the Major Deegan southbound is still causing delays. It was right at Richmond Plaza. Traffic is backed up to 225th Street. Still dealing with delays in Manhattan on the Harlem River Drive southbound from 3rd Avenue down to 116th Street. Then over in Queens, the LIE, there's pockets of delays both directions from Woodhaven Boulevard over to the Grand Central, and then again right around the Clearview. The Jackie Robinson eastbound's backed up from Woodhaven Boulevard over to Queens Boulevard, and the Cross Island southbound, that's still a little slow from north of Northern Boulevard down to the LIE. Van Wyck packed both directions between the Belt Parkway and the Kew Gardens interchange. And here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. The Brooklyn Bridge still solid out of Manhattan into Brooklyn. Take the Manhattan or the Williamsburg bridges around it. That earlier broken down on the George upper level mid-span, that is now out of the way. Still dealing with some cross Bronx delays, though, from Webster Avenue over towards the bridge. The Lincoln, the Holland, those are just about 10 minutes in and out. Patty Bendina, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Now the AccuWeather forecast with meteorologist Matt Benz.
And plenty of clouds out there right now, and eventually those clouds will lead to a few flurries here for tonight, especially late at night, low 26. No worries, though, for any road conditions, just flurries. Tomorrow, sunshine, some clouds, chilly breeze developing, high at 34. For Monday, any early sun will give way to some clouds, a high at 32. There could be a bit of snow and flurries toward the evening, especially north of the city. And for Tuesday, not as cold, mostly cloudy, high at 40 degrees. There could be some rain and drizzle late in the day and into Tuesday night, mainly toward northwest Jersey and Hudson Valley suburbs. temps. Right now it's 30 degrees in Central Park under a mainly cloudy sky. Repeating, the current temperature is 30, falling down to 26 tonight in Midtown. I'm Mackie with the meteorologist, Matt Benz, on New York's weather station, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
Nicolas Maduro and his wife have landed at Stewart Airport, a military base just north of the city. President Trump says the U.S. will run Venezuela till what he calls a transition of power can take place. U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in a surprise overnight military operation he and his wife brought here to New York to face federal drug trafficking and narco-terrorism charges. And keep it locked on 1010 Winds at 92.3 FM for developments as they happen. A parachute jump ahead of yesterday's Armed Forces Bowl in Fort Worth did not exactly go as planned.
Only 3 of the 5 members of the all-veteran group parachuting team landed safely in Carter Stadium. 1 missed the stadium entirely. Another was briefly caught in the netting behind one of the goalposts before falling 35 feet into a small crowd standing behind the end zone. No one was injured. The game still started on time. Texas State beat Rice 41-10.
Michael Wallace reporting. Goose and Maverick are flying high again after winning a copyright case.
Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking. Welcome to basic fighter maneuvers.
An appeals court ruled Top Gun Maverick did not infringe on a 1983 magazine article titled Top Guns, which inspired the first film. Author Ehud Yoneh gave Paramount the rights to use his article for the original film, but in 2020, his family terminated the license and wanted profits from Maverick, which earned more than $1 billion worldwide. The court noted Maverick included unique elements like a romantic subplot and Tom Cruise's character returning as a trainer, which was not in the original story. Paramount says the claims were completely without merit. No comment from the Yoneh family. After weeks on the lam, a runaway goat is finally safe at a farm in Indiana.
Her name is Gertie, and the black and white goat with piercing eyes is striking to look at. She escaped, no one is sure from where, and like a bird or a plane, she was the queen of escaping everyone, from citizens, animal control, and even the sheriff.
She was already a little underweight.
That's Carla Brown, who saved Gertie and took her to a 12-acre farm.
The whole heartbreaking part was I didn't want her to get injured.
Now she gets to live with 37 other animals, including 3 goats and 2 pigs. Gertie is, after all, the greatest of all time.
Allison Keys with that report. It is cloudy 30. We're going down to 26 in Midtown. Time for Bloomberg Money Watch.
Across the world, many people brought in the new year with a glass of wine. And for a rising number, that wine was rosé.
We have to remove the formalities. We have to make wine fun again.
Donna Burston is founder and CEO of rosé maker Lafette Wine Company, which has been trying to break out of what a lot of people think of when they think of the typical rosé drinker.
A lot of brands ran after that sort of Real Housewives sort of scenario, but what we're seeing is we're really opening up the umbrella and bringing everyone into the fold.
Burston does mean everyone.
We wanted to bring in more men, more people of color.
And perhaps the biggest challenge,
a lot of young consumers are not choosing to drink alcoholic beverages, but they're looking and they're consuming with intention.
That means sellers need to move away from fads and gimmicks and give customers something different, an experience.
What's in the bottle, it's really about how you connect with the consumers. So we're meeting consumers where they are. That's everywhere from a pizza place to a $100 plate dinner.
Or a turning of the calendar. I'm Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Money Watch, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
1010 Wins. When I need to know.
Gotta know what's happening in my city.
I need it to stay on top of what is going on.
Curated just right.
1010 Wins.
At 92.3 FM.
WINS, WINS FM in HD1 New York. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
More people get their news from 1010 Wins than from any other radio station in the nation. Chris Roush is our writer. Gary Souter at the editor's desk. And I'm Ashok Kabbalah.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM, New York.
Good afternoon, 30 degrees, cloudy skies at 5 o'clock. I'm Donna Vaughn. And here's what's happening. Deposed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife have landed at Stewart Airport in Westchester County captured during the U.S. operation there. He's been brought here in handcuffs to face a drug trafficking indictment. This as President Trump announces the U.S. is taking over Venezuela and its oil reserves after the U.S. military operation there that deposed Maduro. Well, a close call for a police officer on Long Island dragged by a car while trying to make an arrest following a bar fight. The dangerous drenching continues all over California, where they're getting another round of rain and flooding this weekend. And a NASA spacecraft that's beamed home some critical data about Mars over the past decade has suddenly gone silent as it circles the red planet. They're still trying to reestablish contact. Well, day game for the Devils. They're hosting Utah right now. Then tonight, the Knicks play at home against the Sixers, while the Islanders skate against Toronto. AccuWeather says low 26 tonight, maybe a flurry in the area before sunshine and cold temps tomorrow. Winds News Time is 5:01. Let's get you where you need to go now with Susan Browning.
We're going to start with what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. The inbound George upper level. We had an outbound on the stall clear right around mid-span. That's cleared away, but you're still slow in that westbound crossbunks from around Webster Avenue. Going outbound, I would say about 25 minutes. That goes for both levels. Hudson 2s, both ways, 15 or less, looking good there. And our East River crossings, I'm seeing a slowdown on the Brooklyn Bridge heading into that borough. But you're looking okay in the Manhattan Bridge and the Willie B. Those might be good choices for you. Now, once you get off that Brooklyn Bridge onto the BQE Youch, that is a long line of red coming westbound and starts to slow around Metropolitan Avenue. Stays that way past the Brooklyn Bridge. I'm seeing some police activity around Atlantic Avenue. Here's what we see in Long Island's Big 3. Nothing major at this point. We do have pockets of slowdowns on the LIE both directions, but nothing in the way of a stall or collision on that or the northern state or southern state. Good news for drivers on the Deegan moving southbound. Crash cleared away, and before the crossbunks, you are good to go there. And we still have that problem on the Jackie westbound before Queens Boulevard, a two-car crash. Susan Browning, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
Nicolas Maduro and his wife are now in the U.S. after their capture by the American military. They landed at Newburgh Airport in Westchester County just a little while ago. Meanwhile, the United States is now in charge of Venezuela as well as its oil. So said President Trump this afternoon following the U.S. military operation that resulted in Maduro's capture.
So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
Now, he said as well that the U.S. will take over Venezuela's vast oil reserves and sell, quote, large amounts to other countries now that Maduro has been ousted. The president confirms some American troops were hurt during the operation, while Venezuela's vice president reports the deaths of both civilians and Venezuelan military. She's also demanded that the U.S. free Maduro, calling him the country's rightful leader. President Trump claims his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has spoken to Venezuela's vice president about making that country, quote, great again, though such a conversation has not been confirmed by the Venezuelan government. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength.
Now, reaction has been swift here in the U.S. with protests popping up around the country, including one in Times Square this afternoon. Many accuse the Trump administration and big oil companies of being more interested in owning Venezuela's oil than bringing Maduro to justice.
On short notice, hundreds of anti-war protesters
We want justice, you say how?
showed up, standing by the Venezuelan community, like John.
If we don't show the world and the government that this is unacceptable, we open the door to more of this. And we've seen this in the past.
Which begs the question, was the United States attack justified if Maduro's deemed a dictator?
He is a dictator. He is a criminal. I cannot wait to see him brought to justice in the court of Venezuela or in an international court like The Hague. It is not the role of a foreign nation to be judge and jury.
Yeah, and other protesters say Trump's interest in Venezuela isn't to tackle drugs. He wants oil. Amanda Alexander, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in Times Square.
Now, the American troop buildup near Venezuela had been going on for months before today's attack, along with those U.S. strikes on alleged drug boats off the coast of that country. But some are now questioning whether the American military operation was even legal since there's been no declaration of war. Members of Congress say they weren't even briefed until after it happened.
Some Democrats, though, are crying foul, saying that Congress did not authorize military action in Venezuela. Some Democrats going so far as to call this illegal. Remember, Congress constitutionally is is the only branch of government with the power to declare war, although the president does have some military powers. Over the last few weeks, we've seen Democrats repeatedly bring resolutions to the floor on both the House and Senate, trying to curtail President Trump's military powers when it comes to Venezuela, but Republicans have largely banded together to block those efforts.
Correspondent Jay O'Brien, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, bringing up another point. He says launching military action without a credible plan for what comes next is, quote, reckless. As for the international reaction, condemnations have come in from many of Venezuela's neighboring countries, as well as Russia, which calls it a deeply concerning act of armed aggression by the U.S. The EU and other U.S. allies have called for a de-escalation. A police officer on Long Island dragged by a car while attempting to make an arrest overnight. Nassau police say officers were sent to the X Bar on Main Street in Farmingdale after a call came in about a disturbance there. Although the crowd had left, two men went back and began to act erratically, according to police. The suspects allegedly tried to drive off when police attempted an arrest, and one officer wound up being dragged several feet. They did manage to stop the car, but the suspects allegedly put up a fight, and another officer was hurt as well. Both needed a trip to the hospital. The two men, Nick Quan Joyner of East Patchogue and Devlin Samuels of Wyandanch, both face a series of criminal charges, including assault and resisting arrest. Well, Mayor Mamdani says he will follow through on a plan to rebuild one of the city's deadliest streets, a busy byway in Greenpoint.
The city committed to a redesign of McGinnis Boulevard. That commitment promised to deliver the safety and improvements that residents had been asking for, until the prior administration bowed to big money interests, leaving the project incomplete and Greenpointers still at risk. Today, however, there is a new mayor in City Hall.
A top aide to Mayor Mamdani's predecessor, Eric Adams, was indicted for allegedly accepting bribes to stop the construction. Ingrid Lewis-Martin has pleaded not guilty. McGinnis Boulevard has a long history of pedestrian fatalities and has been compared to Queens Boulevard, also known as the Boulevard of Death. The original plan called for a single lane for drivers on either side, surrounded by bike lanes between the Pulaski Bridge and Meeker Avenue. Construction is expected to be completed sometime this year. Well, there's been a deadly helicopter crash in Arizona.
The small private helicopter went down in remote mountains east of Phoenix near Superior, Arizona. The FAA says 4 people were on board. The helicopter took off from a private air park, a type where aircraft can be parked at owners' homes. The FAA and NTSB say they will lead the investigation. Alex Stone, ABC News.
The 4 victims were all members of the same family. There were no survivors. Investigators say the chopper apparently struck a recreational slack line that had been strung across a mountain range. They can't say yet why the slack line was even there, but they're typically strung up for balancing acts or doing tricks. This slack line was a half-mile long, they say. 30 degrees, cloudy skies, dropping to about 26 overnight in Midtown. We'll get to the traffic and the full AccuWeather forecast after this. Winds News Time 5:11. Let's get you where you need to go with Susan Browning.
There's a big long line of red in Queens and Van Wyck moving northbound. A jam up from the Belt all the way to the Grand Central. The Belt itself moving eastbound. That's a grind from the Verrazano to Cropsey. And then it kind of loosens up a little bit. And then again, it picks up with that grinding traffic from Flatbush to around Sunrise Highway. Taking a look at the bridges and tunnels, here's what you need to know. Brooklyn Bridge, yep, that's always a slow ride heading into that borough. So Manhattan Bridge or the Willie B would be better rides for you. The Hudson River crossings, inbound George 20, going outbound about 25 to 30, so not too shabby, really. It could be far worse. Hudson Tubes will cost you about 15 minutes or less in both directions. And I'm not seeing any major issues on the LIE Long Island's Big Three, meaning LIE Northern State and Southern State. Still working on that problem on the Jackie moving westbound just past Queens Boulevard, crash being cleared away. Susan Browning, 1010 Winds at 92.3 FM.
And now the AccuWeather forecast. Here is meteorologist Matt Benz.
And out the door as we head through this evening and tonight, mainly cloudy. There will be a few flurries around, especially later tonight. Low of 26 tomorrow. Sunshine and some clouds. A chilly breeze at times. High at 34. A bit cooler as we head into Monday. Dry for much of the day, though early sun will give way to some clouds. High at 32. There could be a chance of some snow and flurries toward evening, especially north of the city. For Tuesday, mostly cloudy, not quite as cold. Perhaps some rain and drizzle late in the day. More than likely into Tuesday night across northwest Jersey and Hudson Valley with a high of 40. Right now, it's 30 degrees in Central Park with a relative humidity at 41%. Repeating, the current temperature is 30, falling down to 26 tonight in Midtown. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Matt Benz on New York's weather station, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
On parts of soaking wet California bracing for yet more rain and flooding this weekend.
In San Bernardino County, first responders rescuing a toddler and guiding others to safety after their cars are swept away by rising water. Farther north.